open, and then when grocery stores began to open, you couldn't buy any liquor. Remember, they had but anyway, that's for another day. Now, you could stop right here, and everybody could say, fine and good. Those are 4 good commandments. But, Lord, I need some practical stuff. All of these commandments that you've given me are vertical. Well, not to disappoint. Keep your Bible open, Exodus 20, and look in verse 12. Commandment number 5. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that Lord your God is giving you. Commandment number 6. You shall not murder. Technically, it's murder. We'll talk about that. Verse 14. You shall not commit adultery. Verse 15. You shall not steal. I think we need to pass that around on a note card today, don't we? Number 6, verse 16. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. In verse 17, you shall not covet. Now look in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Chapter 6. If Exodus is the first place that these laws are mentioned, they're repeated in Deuteronomy chapter 5. And then in chapter 6, here is what God says about these commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land to which you are going to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's sons, by keeping all of his statutes and his commandments, which I command you all the days of your life, that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, had promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one Lord. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words I command to you today shall be on your heart. And look in verse 7. You shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and these will be frontlet between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And then God goes on to say, and I will be your God. Now get this. Guidance for a relationship with God. Guidance for a relationship with each other. Take care of family. Honor your mom and dad. And there's more to that than just mom and dad. Don't steal. Don't covet. Don't be sexually immoral. Don't bear false witness. All of these commandments. And then, in Deuteronomy chapter 5, when he repeats them, and then Deuteronomy 6, the passage we just read, here's what I want you to know. These are not rules that you just take off and put on Sunday. God says, now what I want you to do is I want you to take these laws and I want you to treat them like if you will, yeast. I want you to talk about them when you are sitting at your table. I want you to, while you're walking along the way, while you're living life, while you're discussing important things, these laws, these truths are to be woven into the fabric of your life. They're not just for Sunday, they're for your living. Final passage. Look in Matthew chapter 22. So, as we introduce this series, Matthew 22 and verse 34. And when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees and gathered together, and one of them said, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, what's the greatest commandment in the law? What's the greatest commandment? Now stick with me here. Everybody look this way. There are 613 laws. The law was not only the Ten Commandments. You had the moral law, which is the Ten Commandments. You had the, if you will, the ceremonial law that was given in the book of Exodus and in the book of Leviticus that dealt with all the festivals and the feast. And then you had the social law. That is, have you ever read in the Leviticus where it says, well, you're not supposed to have this kind of cloth and eat that kind of fish and so on and so forth, and a ceremonial law. And so you had these three categories of law. You had the moral law that we're more familiar with. You had the laws that dealt with the feast and the tabernacle and the temple. And then you had the laws about all of these ways of living and very unique things that I get asked about all the time. Well, Kevin, should we eat shellfish and have only this kind of cloth and it has this kind of needle there? What is God doing in these kinds of laws? And when this lawyer comes, you know how lawyers can be. They're going to ask questions. Which is the greatest of these 613 laws? And if you do the calculation and take, like, for example, the laws that have to do with all the feasts, there's thousands of these laws. Why did God give all these laws? Well, the reason God gave all these laws is because he was building